Hello YouTube, Robin Hood Bricks here. And no, this doesn't look much like an airport, I must agree. And that's because today we're going to be doing some more train action. The reason why we're not doing an airport this week is just because it's been a bit of a crazy week with work, including my birthday actually. So happy birthday me. So we will get to the airport later, probably starting next Monday. But for today, we're going to be doing some serious trains. And this is my continuing quest to have a cargo train so long that it's literally following its own tail around my city. And in order to achieve that, I thought I might need more engines. Because at the moment, I've got two engines, as you probably know. The blue one, which I call the Hammerhead, because it's got this slight sort of hammerish type head on the front when I did the light mod, and the Beast in red. But what's better than a double header? Well, anyone can tell you that. It's a triple header, of course. Yep, 3 engines at the front of a train rather than just 2. And that's sort of the next step in my strategy, which I did sort of talk about in a previous video, that it was always my dream to have a red, yellow, green and blue cargo train engine pulling a very large cargo train. And I sort of joked that that was a bit stupid and probably a bit over the top. And a couple of my comments to that video were saying, well, why is that stupid? Let's do that. So this is the next step. And I've decided that the next one is going to be green. So the most obvious choice for this green train would be the brand new cargo train 60198. And that is quite a fun set. But the reason why I haven't bought that set is because it's got a lot of carriages and things that I've got already. I've already got a crane, I've already got a box car and container cars and all sorts of stuff like that, even a timber car. So I don't really need anything from that set bar the engine. Now you could buy the engine just separately on eBay and have that alone, and I would convert it to power function so it's just on the same controller as these two are already. But there's a couple of reasons why I didn't want to buy that train. First of all, I'm not a massive fan of how it looks. I mean, it's kind of like most of these ones are, where they're sort of symmetrical and so on. But it's just, I don't know, it's just got something a little bit wrong with it that I don't particularly care for. And the main reason why I'm not going to use that train is because of the snot technique that it uses on the front of the nose. Now, snot means studs not on top. And that just means that it's got some studs that are kind of facing that way as part of its construct. And the reason why that's a problem is because it's going to be very hard to light. Now, I've already got lights on this train that work with the power functions lights. I've already got ones on this one by way of a modification. But that one is very difficult to do so because it's got one of these barrier pieces mounted that way, and the base of which completely blocks where the lights would go. Now, I dare say you could come up with some complete rehaul of the overhaul of the nose piece and get some lights in there. I dare say you could do that, but it would grossly change the front look of it. And of course, because it's symmetrical, you'd have to do the same thing on the back. So I was always a bit uncertain about that train. But then looking further, I found that there's another train that is green. Because Lego seem to cycle pretty much between them. They sort of go yellow, green, red, blue, yellow, green, red, blue sort of thing. So if you just go back one whole green train, then you'll see set 7898. And that was actually, well, a fantastically named set in that it was Cargo Train Deluxe, which I very much like the sound of. And that was from 2006. It's a very similar train in many respects. But it's got a couple of really interesting points to it. It's got a very novel cab piece, which is a bit different. It's got some really interesting stickers that I quite like because I'm a big sticker fan, as you know. It's a little bit more rare and exotic as a train, so fewer people have this as part of their city setup. But also, it's got a really novel lighting system and indeed power system as well. So let's take a look at what I've got. So these are all the parts that I've got to make our new train. As well as a wonderful old school driver with his wonderful stripy dungarees on, we've also got these two front cab pieces, which are kind of all integrated there's not many sets that had these. It's kind of the same end result as this cab piece on the front of the blue train, but in several pieces here and all in one here. And we've got these lovely 9-volt stickers. That's probably the worst one that I had to repair, but all of the others have been moved and put in the right place using my patented hot tea technique. And then we've got the usual sort of pneumatics oil, electrics water type stickers, but again on a lovely green brick. Then we've got the 2 nose pieces with the model number 7898. And then most fascinating of all, we've got these headlight bricks. So you can see this is for the back of the train, a bit grubby, with red lights in it. And it's all integrated. And this one I've taken apart for the front, which has got yellow lights. And it actually uses, well, science and physics to direct a single bulb's light through a prism piece into a pair of headlights. So what happens is basically the bulb would be behind this sort of base of the stem here, and the light would sort of bounce off the internal angles of this prism plastic piece to shine ultimately light out of both sides of the front, which will be coming out of those 2 headlight pieces. So if I just push that back in, which it does a lot easier than it is to get out, and if I try and show you that, so I've got a battery box and a pair of lights here. I'm just going to mount it on here for now. Then you will see that if I put that light directly behind this prism, that when we turn it on, hey, it shines out of both of them at once. And that's useful because then when I do the other one, it also only needs 1 bulb to power both lights. So I only need actually 1 set of power functions lights to do the front and back of the same train. But you know how I like diversity in my city, and I thought having an alternate lighting sort of system was really interesting, and I think it just looks different, and I don't know, I really like it. So that's great, but that's not where the differences end with this set. This was actually predating power functions as a system. So what they used in this train set, the 7898, was the 9-volt RC system, RC being remote controlled. I think it was the first time that remote controlled systems came in. And it had this weird black chunky controller with big yellow buttons. But more interestingly than that, it had a very different train base. So at the moment, obviously, we have very flat, normal bases. But what they did there was have one that was integral with the IR receiver, and it had a little IR receiver on both sides on the edges. And it also had the battery box mounted sort of bang in the middle, all joined into that one single piece, which made it a huge base and a huge piece. Well, I suppose a lot more to go wrong, and a lot less flexible as well, after all. And I always wonder, though I haven't got one of these bases, if those sensors on the side were a bit less useful at picking up a signal, just because there might be loads of obstacles in the way, like, for example, another passing train. So I think it's right that they moved to power functions, and that's why I will definitely be putting power functions into my train. So it's going to need some modifications, not least the base itself, because the base that integrated the old battery box and the old IR sensors in that 9-volt system was actually 30 studs long. And normal train base is either 24 studs or 28 studs long. So if I'm going to do a faithful representation of the green train in question, I'm going to actually have to lengthen my train base, which is 28 long, by 2 whole studs. So I'm just going to do that in a really low-tech method by adding 2 1x6 plates to each end and do it that way, and hold it together just using some of the superstructure on top. Specifically some big headlights. Right, so I think we're just about ready to start building this train. I'm going to try and do the superstructure faithful to the original, as I've said, but I am going to try and make all the power functions fit with it seamlessly, with the IR receiver coming out of the roof like the other ones, because I want all 3 of these trains to be powered and to work on exactly the same side of one controller. So it's really easy to control the 3 as one. Now, at the moment, I do have one motor on the blue train and two motors on the red train. And I think adding a fourth motor might be overkill. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is actually modify the beast a little bit to actually remove one motor and add a kind of a dumb setup here for its other bogie and set of wheels. And that way we'll have three trains and three motors with one each. And while I do that, I'm also going to hardwire the lights. So it's like the hammerhead that when you turn it on, the lights come on immediately, whereas this one is still dependent on receiving that second signal. And I want to get it down so it's all on one side of the remote. The lights are hardwired on, and then I'll never leave it on by accident. So let's start with the beast. I won't show you the whole process with the beast just because it's probably going to be a nightmare because this thing is absolutely jam-packed full of wires. You can see how busy it is in there, so it's probably going to be a nightmare. But what I'm going to be adding is this dumb bogie with wheels set up, and I'm going to be adding one of these short cables, power function cables, which is 8886, and that's just so I can hardwire the lights on, so when I do this switch on, the lights come on immediately and don't require an IR signal. And then what I'm going to be taking off, obviously, is the front motor, but also buried in here, the polarity switch changer, which enables you to have the two motors in the first place, because without the polarity switch or unscrewing the motor and doing some sort of changings to the gubbins inside, they will try and go in opposite directions, which means your train won't go anywhere quickly. So yeah, I need to do a bit of removal and then a bit of addition. So let's do that. What a mess. Yeah, so I've removed the motor, which I can now use on my green train. I've removed the polarity switch, which I have no alternate use for, but we'll put that to one side. That's meant that I can actually add back the blue chair, so that's good. Put that in there. And then this wodge of kind of connectors is so that when we plug in the battery and turn it on, it will turn on the lights straight away, but also still provide power to the infrared sensor. So if I turn that on, there we go, we've got the front headlights and the back headlights on straight away, and that's how I like it, because that means I can just control the motion of the train just on one wheel and the other two as well, and I can also know that the train is still on because the lights are still on, and that just helps me not leave it in the wrong position discharging the battery. So awesome, I just need to put this back together. Right, well that's done. It's all jam-packed in there. Let's open this and have a quick look. There's the connection block and all the wires. You can see it's absolutely full, but that's the way I like it. So if we squeeze it all back down again, then with a press of the button, we can have the lights on in both directions. And let's just check the motor still works. Yep, that's fine as well. So we're cooking on gas. Right, let's make a start on the green train. Right, so let's get started building the 7898 Cargo Train Deluxe. So I'm going to try and stay as faithful as I can to the original with this one, barring all the changes I'm going to have to make for the power functions. So I'm going to put the most fundamental parts in first. So there's the front lights. Actually, I'm going to need to pass that wire underneath the driver's seat just to keep it out of the way. And then the back light needs to go there with another 1x2 Technic brick just to support that light in its place as well. So that's looking good. Then I need some sort of cockpit setup, which I've pre-done just to save me time. I've just put it on back to front, so let's do that like that. So I'll need the controls in front of him. There we go. And then the same on the other side. So actually I don't want to do that one backwards as well. There we go. So there are the two ends. And then we need an extra sort of headlight on top at each end and the red one on the back. Yep. And then we can put these kind of bonnet pieces on. That's what I'm going to call it. Anyway, it's probably completely the wrong name. I'll get complaints from all the train fans. But there we go. That's looking good. And then the sides I've pre-done as well. So I'm going to just pop them on like that. Now the bit I didn't show you, not deliberately, but accidentally, was the train doors. So it's just a normal train doors with the normal train logo on as well. So they go next, sort of like that. And like that. And then we get those lovely end cab pieces, and that goes on like that. So you can see that the main structure is very simple indeed, really. And then we've got two more doors for the other side. And I won't put that on because of the wires. And then they're all held in place using tiles, which enables us to lift the roof off should we need to access the battery box and so on. So that's what I'm going to do. I've made some slight changes on the lower side in the middle because that infrared sensor that was on both sides of that integrated battery base type setup that they had for this set actually did infringe into this area, but I've just continued the stripes along. I mean, that's exactly what you'd expect to see, I think. But before I go too much further and make this hard for myself, I need to get a lot of stuff on the inside of this thing, obviously. So we've got a power functions motor that we're going to need to have coming up through the floor, and that'll actually be on the back, so that'll be on that end. So that's the power functions train motor 88002. These are all still available. We need to get in our IR sensor so it can take the same infrared message from the rest, and that is 8884. I've got another one of those short extension cables, and that's just so I can have the lights hardwired on when I turn on the train, just like we did for the Beast. So that is 8886. Then we need a battery box, and I've got the rechargeable battery box just because I like those, because I don't have to go through loads and loads of batteries, and they're quite powerful actually. I think they keep their power a lot longer than normal batteries, it seems. And that's 8878. Sadly, those are not available anymore, which is a real shame because they are fantastic. But fortunately, I kind of saw them going out of print and bought, I can't remember, about half a dozen of them, which was quite an expense, I must say. But I'm probably going to reap the benefits going forward. And then I've already got over here, sort of attached to all those lights, the power function lights, 8870. So that is all the kit I need to get into here in a way where I can still have the driver sat on his chair, and hopefully these wires all contained in some sort of order. So I'm not going to do that on camera because it's going to be a nightmare. Now, if you want to do something like this and get all this power functions squeezed into just one engine, then you really have to do it in the most ordered way you can. So I've got the light coming from one end going underneath what will be the battery based on these four 1x4 modified tiles, and that goes all the way underneath to the other end where the other half of that is. And I'm kind of nervous to take it off just because it's coiled up so tightly in there. Can you see that? All that wire for the lights excess is underneath that piece there, and that is just in because it's kind of trying to fight to get out. And then I've got the stack that enables all those lights to go on with just a press of the button, kind of wedged in between here and this arch piece that's letting out all the wires that will ultimately go to the battery, and that is going to support the infrared sensor itself, because we need the top of that, of course, to pop out of the roof so the signal can reach it, and that will make it a bit more effective than the old one where it was on the side. So I'm hoping that that will work and all stay together. But you can see that although it looks quite ordered now, thankfully, there's a lot jammed into that area, and I might have to rearrange that now, having taken it off, because it's starting to push up again. So yeah, I'll do that. Then this bit can go to the battery, and the motor can attach here. Phew, it is all in there. You can see that absolute knot of cable, and you've got to be careful with it, because if you push it down too much, it will push these doors open, which we don't want. And that entire cabin is absolutely chock full of stuff, so we won't get anything in there. But I have put the driver in the front car, and I know that even when you have a triple header or a double header or something like that. You don't have to have a driver in each cabin, and that's just because they're all powered by the one at the front, which makes a lot of sense. But I quite like it, and I've got nowhere else to put these guys, so I'm going to have a driver in each and every one. Right, so now I need to add on the bogey at the front. So we've got more wheels, and there we go. Now, I did just do a little test of this just to check that I'd got all the wiring right and nothing had sort of pinged apart or something, and it didn't work at all, and I was a bit confused. But you have to remember to set the IR receiver to the same channel as the remote, otherwise it's got no chance of working. But now if I turn it on, we've got automatic lights, and those yellow ones are a bit sort of neon yellow really, aren't they? But that's good fun, a bit different. And the red ones, very nice as well. So I'm liking that a lot already. And then just to check the motor is working. There we go. All right. Very good. Okay, so now I just need to add the bottom bit, which there wasn't one in the original because obviously that was part of the huge sort of battery box IR receiver type setup as well. So I've just sort of cobbled together one with some parts that I had. It's a bit similar to the one on the Beast, but that looks good as well. Then I've got a roof setup, which I've had to change quite a bit because I want to incorporate a nice on-off switch into the middle, like I have on my other trains. And I also need a hole here for the IR receiver, but I still want to keep these lovely yellow pieces and the pantographs as well. So that slots on there and is removable. So let's check that it's not going to push the doors open too much. There we go. So that's looking good. And I think, because this one's quite tall actually, this engine, compared to my other ones, I think the pantographs might actually be a bit too high for my bridges. So that might be as high as they can go on this one, and that's a sort of common problem I have with all my trains. I think if I was going back, I'd make my bridges slightly taller and my tunnels slightly higher, but we'll see. I'll put them at a higher setting if the track and course that it's going to be going around can take it. Then I need to add my additional bits. Do you remember those from the beginning? Because at the moment we've got this massive sort of overhang of the bogies for it to work. So I thought I'd add the lights that were on the original set, but I'd add these additional 1x3 plates underneath them just so it will sort of hold them and the end of the base in place. So we've got some white ones on that end. Ooh, and we've got some red ones on this end, and that just keeps the nice balanced look that the original set had, because I did like the look of that train quite a lot. So there we go, there's the back and there is the front. That's looking great. Now we've got that hole in the middle at the moment, and I'm just going to use this sort of setup, which is similar setup to all the other trains I have, just so you've got that push button. And we won't need a little hole to be able to see a light to see if the battery is on, because we'll have these lights being on, hardwired to tell us that the whole thing is on. So I can just drop that in there. And I've just put a little green sticker on it, which actually fits the colour scheme of this train really well, doesn't it? And that's just a spare sticker I had from the 60197 new passenger train. So now I can control those lights and whether the train is on and off very easily just by a quick touch on the roof, just like the other two are. So that is my completed green train, and I think it's looking pretty cool. Now usually, well, I say usually, when I did the blue train I had a naming competition and somebody else came up with the name Hammerhead, and that was greatly received and a really good name for it. I'm very happy with that. But the original one, the Beast, I decided to call the Beast just because I thought it was huge and really strong. But this one seems like I can't call it anything other than the Hulk, because it's green, it's also strong. So I thought the Beast, the Hammerhead and the Hulk could work really well as a team. So I won't do a naming competition this time because I'm too sold on the Hulk. Right, so all that remains now is to get this into the Lego room, spinning around the city, and we'll also have a bit of train cam, no doubt. Right, so before we get to getting the trains running, I thought I'd show you this, which is kind of an idea provided by a number of people after mounting all of the planes. They suggested I should add Superman helping a plane with engine trouble, and they specifically mentioned the large cargo plane that had 4 engines, but I didn't really like that idea too much because I figure they can still operate on 2 engines, and therefore having more than 2 failing just seemed unlikely. So here's Superman, yellowed up, actually trying to save this red helicopter instead, which only has 2 engines, and they're both currently on fire, using all sorts of different colours of grey and white and black, I think, in there somewhere, 2x2 round plates. So I think that's quite a good effect. So it's still technically their suggestion, so I'll give them a bedoing. But I think the helicopter is a lot better location for that idea. And at the moment I've got it kind of attached by 1x2x5 transparent bricks above Owl's Barbers. But I don't think it will stay there, largely because it's in the middle of the room and I'm going to knock it sooner or later. But also because it kind of interferes with my favourite view of the entire main station from this angle. So I do think it won't stay there for long. But I do think I like the idea of having an aircraft in trouble being helped by the lovely locked Superman. If I can just get it to focus on him. Nope, it's not doing it. There we go. Anyway, right, on to today. So we are doing the train, and I've already added the blue hammerhead to the front of our incredibly long cargo train. I've also added the red beast, so it only remains for me to add the green Hulk, 7898, to the front. I'm not sure that I'll keep him permanently at the front of these 3, because I kind of like the beast. I think the beast will always be my favourite. But today, at least, given it's his video, we'll put him at the front. Or should it be her? I think you refer to engines like you do ships and stuff as she. So maybe she needs to be at the front. I've just added a 1x2 grill piece there just to the 2 magnets just to help them stay together. Though I don't think it's going to be needed now because the power is now spread, of course, between these 3 engines equally. So let's turn them on. First of all, hammerhead. Lights on. The beast. Lights on. And the Hulk. Lights on. Bit harder to see on that one, but you can see them in there. And on the front a little bit, projecting some light. And then they are all on one side of one controller now. So off they go. Maybe a little bit faster. And I think spreading out that power means that they are quite, golly, that's close. That they are quite pulling away easily, quite evenly spaced power. Let's see how close it is here. Oh, I can't believe that didn't actually hit. That looked that looked the exact same height as my bridge. So that's why I don't have the pantographs up to an extended height, just because they will definitely hit. They'll probably hit the underside of that. We'll have a look at that in a minute. Golly, it's long, isn't it? When's it going to stop? There we go. There's my favourite little pump wagon, beezing along there. They're very, very busy at work, aren't they? Fantastic. Right, let's get a shot down a bit lower and see if we can see how close that new train is to the top there. It really is close, isn't it? The cement mixer truck's quite close as well. Oh, golly. And all of those ones at the back, the crane and the caboose and the green reels are all very close indeed. Oh, the best is still that pump wagon, isn't it? Right, let's get the passenger train going as well. This one's still, for the moment, on powered up rather than powered functions. And you can see, ooh, it must be running low on batteries. Or maybe I just need to keep cranking it up. Yeah, it's running low. It's virtually dead. So we'll have to use the white train for train cam in a minute. Very good. And that's a great shot as well. Cool. So, do tell me what you think. I'm sure, like me, you just think more is better. I'm sure there'll be the odd person who thinks it's got a bit silly. A lot of people always say that I should add a siding for my trains so that we can have one kind of parked to one side and have another one that's less stupidly long, taking its turn. But this track takes so much of my city's space that effectively I want to use as much of it at any one time as possible. And having a siding, well, that really has ground to a halt, isn't it? Adding a siding to the whole setup that's going to be long enough to even take half of these carriages will basically go all the way up to, say, that wall right over there, and will be a very significant waste of space in my mind. Not least that it will interfere with all of my roads and my future building plans. So, no sidings for me. But I do like the Hulk. It's quite different from the Beast and the Hammerhead. And, well, will I get the yellow one as well? Complete the set. I think you probably know the answer to that question, if you know anything about me. Excellent. Here it comes. The Hulk, the Beast, the Hammerhead. I love that thing. Oh, it's so funny. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. It is appreciated. Do remember to like, comment and subscribe for more awesome LEGO videos. And next time on Robin Hood Bricks, we'll be doing another brick haul. And then next Friday, we'll be coming back to the city for another city update, where hopefully we'll be finishing off the old town and the Diagon Alley set, and have a whole area complete. So, see you then!